All right, thank you all for coming this morning. My name is Peter Birdsall. I serve as the Executive Director of CSESA, and I want to welcome you to the fourth and final of this incredible set of workshops and trainings to help you in turn support your school districts as we roll out the new template and the rubrics and the newest school accountability system. This really is an extraordinary event, and I've talked about it in our prior welcomes, the extent of collaboration that went into it. Last time I said 42 county offices have been involved in the development, review, or presentation materials. I'm told it's now up to 45. So, I mean, it's just really extraordinary, and you can feel the energy in the room and see the attendance and the people that have made it through the traffic hazards and all that stuff to get here. So, thank you very much. I would like to ask everybody to give a hand to the people that have contributed to making this work. This is a list of the people that contributed to the development of the materials for today's workshop. And then these are reviewers. So thank you very much. I do need to, I've talked in the last couple about the collaboration across counties in making this work. I really need to point out that this is also collaboration that's extraordinarily important between the curriculum instruction side of the house, the student services, and fiscal, and a number of BASC members, Business Administration Steering Committee members that are on this list, both for the development and the review. The reason I particularly want to emphasize that is because I think this year that integration of curriculum and fiscal perspective is going to be critically important. As you know, county superintendents have a dual mission. County superintendents review and approve every LCAP. They also review and approve every budget of every school district. And this year, it appears the budget deliberations, a lot of school districts are going to be more difficult than we've experienced the last few years. The governor's budget, from my perspective, is extremely conservative, but that's what everybody's going to be dealing with this spring. And so where for the past few years you've worked with school districts that have, relatively speaking, more money to invest, now the cost of living adjustment is only 1.48%, which basically just keeps pace with the employer contributions for PERS and STRS. And so, you know, it's just going to be much more difficult. We are concerned there'll be far more school districts that are in danger of we're going to have a hard time making their budgets balance. So it's critically important from our perspective that the instruction and fiscal conversations are connected. You can't have disconnected conversations about the LCAP and the budget, and that's got to be true in the county offices also. Finally, also, I need to acknowledge there are going to be difficult conversations within county offices of education. I think you all know that the legislature and the governor approved $40 million of one-time funding for counties to do this work. That was one time 15-16 and 16-17. That really fueled within your counties, creating the offices, hiring the staff that's making this work move forward, really supported what's going on right now. Unfortunately, the budget does not continue that funding in 17-18. So the money is here throughout the spring, so keep up the good work. But in the legislative process, we will be, there are going to be extensive conversations about the role of county offices in the accountability system. You may not feel like advocates, but in fact you are, because the job for people like me and Sandra Morales and Efrain Mercado is made much easier if districts are saying, boy, we really rely on our county office of education. You know, they've been incredibly supportive. So the work you're doing fits into that conversation. Having said that, I know that next week we have the county superintendent's meeting in Monterey. There'll be a lot of discussion about that because everybody's going to be facing this, overhang of uncertainty about the budget. I think when the legislative analyst comes out with his review of the budget, they're going to say state revenues are much higher than the governor projected. So we are hopeful for what's going to be the final budget in July. Personally, I think we have a really good chance of getting the ongoing funding to support county work on LCAP and supporting school accountability, but we're not going to have a firm commitment until the end of the budget process. So you just need to go into that process knowing that. And it's AB 1200, the fiscal accountability system, where counties have a great reputation. It took like 25 years for that system to evolve. One of the challenges we faced is this need to get up and running much faster. And these 4 workshops have really just, launched that to a whole new level. So, you know, I wanted to acknowledge the debate that's going to go on in the counties around budget, but I want to also be very upbeat because I'm hearing extraordinary things about the quality of these trainings, and then from the first districts that you've trained, the feedback we're getting about the support they're getting from their district, from their counties. And in the end, I'm really convinced that will support ongoing funding for the county role in school accountability. So in any case, I really want to welcome you today. I'm speaking on behalf of the 58 county superintendents. I know I am. Talked to a number of them that have been attending these meetings. They're really proud of the work you're doing. You are the ones that are reaching every district in the state. So thank you very much. With that, I want to turn the mic over to David Sapp and Cindy Kazanis to lead us in today's agenda. So thank you very much for coming.
So good morning, everyone. My name is David Sapp. I work for the State Board of Education, and just want to echo Peter's thanks to all of you for being here. As I said at the last training in December, when I spoke at the beginning, this is really important. We really appreciate all the work that you all are doing. This work to build consistency across the state and how districts are supported, and the review and approval of LCAPs and the use of the new accountability tool is critically important. What I wanted to do really quickly is just provide an update on sort of where we are in terms of the development and rollout of the new system. The first thing is that at the state board meeting last week, we were able to announce that the new website, that is sort of the way that the information in the from the evaluation rubrics is presented, the performance data, is going to be called the California School Dashboard. This is basically the way that information will be displayed. We learned that rubrics was somewhat of a barrier to communication, and given that that website is going to be the key way that the public, parents, and other stakeholders see this information, it was a good opportunity to use a term that's much more accessible and to use that opportunity to rebrand. One part of it that's been just a point of confusion that I wanted to clarify in case this question does come up, the board has taken action to approve the accountability tool that is the evaluation rubrics. The website, the dashboard, is just how the data is displayed publicly. So as the board continues to review and refine and improve the evaluation rubrics, the accountability tool, the website, the dashboard will of course be updated to reflect any of those changes. So just we've gotten some questions about what's the relationship between the dashboard, is the dashboard the rubrics? No. That's the name of the website. The board is going to continue working on the accountability tool through that process. The other thing that I wanted to share with you is an update on the sort of the public launch and rollout of the dashboard, and sort of you all are probably getting questions and feeling the angst that we are from districts of when are we going to see our data? So we're actually piloting today and tomorrow the automated enrollment process for districts and charter school, so they'll be able to actually get user credentials to access the website. And we expect to do the statewide rollout of that on Monday of next week. So basically every district superintendent or charter school administrator will get an email explaining the system. This is how you can enroll. This is how you get the credential. And if they complete that process by the first week of February, right now we're targeting February 1st for the preview period when LEAs will be able to access their data. So it will be a private preview period through the month of February. So this communication, this email enrollment will say, if you've enrolled by February 1st-ish, around February 1st, you'll be able to actually start seeing your data. So in terms of the timing, that's where we are in terms of the prototype and building of the website. During the preview period, we're going to continue to do user testing to get feedback on the design of the dashboard. So we're also going to try to be clear in the communication. What you all see during the preview period is not necessarily exactly how it's going to look when the system launches publicly in early March. So we're going to continue to refine in terms of the design, the graphics. There'll be additional features and potential reports that get actually rolled out during the preview period as well. But the goal is to try to get the data out there to everybody as early as possible. Two other points of clarification, and sort of this is going back to the slide here, which is sort of what is the process going to look like going forward on an annual basis, and how is this year different? This year, this is the first year, this is the transitional year in terms of the board didn't finally approve the details for the evaluation rubrics until the January meeting. You're going to hear about the academic indicator later. So this is a transitional year. This is for everyone to get familiar, to learn about it, for all of us at the state level to learn and improve the tool. The accountability system is going to be fully operational for the 17-18 year. So this really is a transitional year for everyone to learn and become comfortable and familiar with the tools before everything comes fully online. As a part of the board's ongoing process, there's this annual review process. So every March, the board's going to kind of review the current state of the evaluation rubrics. The department's going to identify any possible changes or improvement, additional data elements that may be available, and then come back to the board in September with any recommended changes or adjustments to the state indicators, the local indicators, or anything else. That can include like the cut points on the performance standards, for example. So that's going to be the process going forward, and then the data each year would come out in the fall. So after the board in September reviews, makes any adjustments, then the next year's data become available. This year is, of course, different. The data are just going to be rolling out in February this year. So just as a point of clarification, because we've gotten a lot of questions, in the future, in terms of how the rubrics inform the LCAP planning process, the expectation is the data will be available in the fall, so it can then flow into that LCAP planning process. We know this year is different, and that does present a challenge. So we want to acknowledge that. We know this, but this is part of the transition. And so if you all get this question, I just want to answer it right now. What about the plan summary? There's that part of the plan summary that talks about the our performance data from the rubrics. What is the expectation for this year? The expectation for this year is that LEAs will complete the plan summary using the data that are released, recognizing that it's not going to be available to them until early February. So that presents a challenge in how they engage their stakeholders, but that's the way it's going to work this year. Going forward, it will work differently, and that will be available in the fall. One final question that I know has come up, and I just want to touch on really briefly, is sort of what about the local performance indicators in this transition year? What's the expectation there, and how will that be different going forward? Again, this is the transition year. Going forward, that sort of fall period when data are released, there would be a date certain where LEAs are expected to have completed, used those local reflection tools, uploaded the information to the dashboard, and if they have done so, then they say they've met the standard. This year, as part of the transition, we're basically going to have it be, it shows up as met only if the LEA has done it. So it's going to be NA otherwise, basically, for this first year. But if they complete it, then it would show up as met during this sort of transition year this spring. And so this is an opportunity for you all in working with your districts to sort of work with them, when they're ready to engage with that part of the dashboard, that is sort of part of their process of becoming familiar with the new system. And we know this is going to be a learning process ramping up. So just wanted to address that point as well, because we've also gotten a number of questions about that. So before I close, I just want to thank you all again for all the work that you're doing, and in advance for all the work that you will do. As a part of this, we know that communication is really important, and providing information and resources so people understand what this new system is. And so I just want to let you all know there will be a number of resources that will be coming out over the next 2 to 3 weeks to support the rollout of the dashboard. So, for example, a fact sheet, there'll be the technical manual resource that actually goes through and provides technical details about all the indicators, and various other resources about how to explain and talk about the dashboard and how to use it. And then finally, a toolkit to all LEAs that they can use looking ahead to the public launch in March to communicate to their local stakeholders. So these are all resources that will be rolling out over the next 4 to 5 weeks, and also we're working very closely with CSESA, AXA, CTA, other statewide associations to try to ensure consistency of that information that comes out, so we don't have differing, try to minimize the differing expectations as much as possible. So thank you all very much. Just if there are any questions, I'm happy to try to address them now, but otherwise I'll hand it back to Judy.
All right, so this morning, let me share with you our plan for the day. So we have the state academic indicator that was just approved last week. The team that worked on this found out the result of the state board action and had their draft ready to be printed in the packet. So an amazing turnaround time. for our first group. Then we will spend some time on the state performance indicators, the tools for state priorities 2 and 3. And then the rest of the day, we will move into a time that is not for us to then share with districts, but really is for us to consider, once we hit July and the approval of LCAPs, what does it mean for a LCAP to be approvable, and what's that minimum standard? So it really takes on a different look and feel the rest of the day, because it will be around not necessarily what we are hoping districts will focus on, which we focused on back in November, right? That continuous improvement, how to make a strong LCAP. Now we're going to look at that minimum level of what would be required for approval. And then we will close the day by coming back around to the survey that was completed by most of the county offices. Gary Waddell will be sharing with us the results of that survey, as well as some outcomes and next steps that will be moving forward as a result of the data that was shared. So as we've done with each one of our sessions together, there is a presenter's agenda. Tried to make it easy for you this time, so it's bit.ly/agenda and today's date. And on that presenter's agenda, you have links and copies to everything that is shared today, as well as some online resources that our presenters have developed or provided you access to. So it's a great wealth of information, and I would encourage you to make sure you make a copy of that presenter's agenda. And the link is in the handout as well. We will have a morning break and an afternoon break, as well as our lunch will be served here. There is a Google Doc for questions that you may have, and we will monitor that feed as we've done in the other sessions. We will not break up the flow, but if there's a question that really does need to be addressed today, we will do so. But just by way, we started this process of the questions back with session number 2. Those questions all have been answered, and they are with the CCESA LCAP coordinating committee at this point for a review, and then will be shared with CDE state board staff to make sure that we're all in agreement in terms of what we're saying, and then it will be sent out to everyone who has participated in the training series. And so that's in process right now for both sessions 2 and session 3. We will follow that same sequence following today's list of questions.